and you're very welcome to the latest Cuppa Culture podcast, coming to you from South Dip Arts Centre. This week, I'm joined again by Helena Tobin, our Artistic Director.
Morning, Emer. How are you?
I'm good. And this week we have a special guest, a very unusual guest, actually. Brendan Collins, you are a baritone.
Indeed. Good morning. Thanks for asking me.
Not at all. I'm completely fascinated. I've listened to some clips of you singing there and I'm just completely blown away. I wonder, how did you discover singing in general, and how did you discover that you had a talent for opera singing in particular, which is a very specific niche for especially someone so young?
Well, I had kind of a roundabout way of getting into it. I started on the stage when I was 6. I was in the Montforts, which was a stage school in Cork, and I started out actually more as a dancer and acting rather than singing. I kind of sang in the Montfort choir and stuff. But I was 8 years old and I was doing an operetta called Lilac Time by Schubert, and I was just dancing in it. And it was the Irish Operatic Repertory Company. And a few years later, they remembered me, and they were going more into opera at that point, and they were doing a production of Carmen back in '96. And I was 15 years old, and I got a call asking me to be a dancer in the final act. And then he said, "Oh, listen, are you singing?" I went, yeah, a bit. And he said, "What would you be?" He said, "I suppose a bass. Do you want to be in the chorus?" I was like, "Yeah, why not? Something different." And that was it. I just absolutely I was blown. This is my complete introduction to this world. Absolutely fell in love with everything. And that's how I started. And 3 years later, I was 18. I started voice lessons, went into Cork School of Music, full-time training, and I've been doing it ever since.
So you've pretty much been working consistently since you left college as a baritone, like working as a professional singer.
Yeah, I had a couple of interim jobs, as Helena will know. We worked together in a cinema back in the day in Cork, in the Gate Cinema. And I left that in January 2004. And ever since then, I've been doing this full time.
That's awesome. So these crazy times, Brendan, obviously we're all in lockdown here. It's obviously affected your work schedule.
Oh, yes.
Like a lot of other artists. How are you finding the whole... I suppose you don't have very much information about when work is going to start coming back in again and stuff like that. But you are working on something at the moment during the lockdown with some friends of yours?
I'm indeed. So what happened was I was meant to be doing, actually, ironically enough, Carmen again for Irish National Opera. We were doing in the Bord Gáis Energy Theatre in Dublin. And I was in the middle of rehearsals. We actually were in RTE doing orchestral rehearsal when my first cancellation came in for a concert at the end of May. And that got us all talking, saying, "Oh God, are we going to get to go on? What's going to happen?" At this stage, I was still working. We were not shaking hands, but there was no social distancing. There was nothing like that. And the day after the orchestral rehearsal, I woke up and I saw on Twitter that Leo Varadkar was going to be making an announcement from Washington. I went, "Oh no, this is it." Sure enough, 11:30, he comes out, all gatherings over 100 people cancelled, all this, so, we knew at that stage. So we got the email that afternoon saying that Carmen was postponed, but it's not going to be on for a couple of years, unfortunately. Then over the next few days, more texts, more emails, cancellations, postponements. So the next week I was sort of sitting at home. As I was saying, I wasn't quite in the depths of despair, but it was approaching it. No motivation to sing, no motivation to work out, do nothing. I was just working my way through Tiger King. And it was... I kind of got to the point where I just needed to do something. So I had been working on new songs a couple of months ago, because the funny thing with this job is you have intense periods of being busy, but then you might have a month or 5 weeks where you've nothing on officially, but you're at home learning music. So actually isolation actually isn't that much different for me because I'm spending it at the piano. But so I was working on all these new songs for these recitals. I went, well, look, why don't I get backing tracks, record myself doing them, put them on a Facebook page, just something to do kind of thing. And then I was thinking, well, look, I'm not the only one that's obviously that this has happened to. It's all over the world. So I texted all my friends, musicians, singers, whoever, and said, look, I've had this idea. I'm setting up this page. If you want to record something for me and send it, I'll put it on the page. Share your social media and your website. Keep our profiles raised during this period. So I designed the logo for it, set up the page, put my first video up. Got a lot of attention on it. It was really nice. And then nothing for about 5 days. It was like nobody was sending me anything. I was like, oh crap. So I was like, it's just going to be me, isn't it? So I put up the second video a few days later, and then slowly but surely, people started sending me things. Now, there was a little bit of cajoling on my part, kind of, texting going, hey, the way you said you'd send me a video. But now I have enough things to post 6 days a week. I probably could do 7, but I'm taking a day off to give people a break.
Okay.
And I have a couple of weeks programmed, which is fantastic.
Brendan, that's brilliant, because it sounds like not only is it a kind of idea that kind of helps the community to kind of just do something. Yes, it's ad hoc and there's no beautiful costumes and orchestra behind you. But at the same point, there's a little bit of, it sounds like for you, a little bit of, I had nothing to do. I was kind of getting a little bit crazy. So let's focus on something. So it almost became something that was kind of just something to focus on, but also something.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And honestly, I'm busier now than I would be normally than when I'm off, because, what I'm doing is I get up in the morning, have breakfast, then I'll post the day's video. Then I have to do the social media for that video. So it's like put it on Twitter, Instagram, the other Facebook accounts, reply to, I like to, as much as I can, if anyone's leaving messages, I try to kind of reply to those and say thank you, whatever. Then I will sit at the piano for a couple of hours, learning my own rep, planning things that I want to do, ensembles I want to do.
Yeah.
Then 2 days a week, I do my recordings for the page. Obviously, because it is my page, it is going to be me featured the most. That's all I'm saying. So I try to put myself up twice a week, and I try to limit it to that because I am in an apartment block and I've been here 11 years and I'm touching wood, but nobody's complained yet, and I don't want them starting now.
Why would anyone complain? Oh my goodness.
Oh,
like there's newborn baby stairs, and then like an opera six stairs here.
Exactly. God help. I can't say which is worse, to be honest with you. But so I'm aware that everyone is at home. I don't want to be singing out loud too much. So, and then I'm getting videos from people. I'm doing the editing. I started doing ensembles a couple of weeks ago. A soprano friend of mine, Karina, and myself did a duet from Marge Figaro. So I had to learn, how do I actually put this together on split screen? I have a Mac, use iMovie. Then we did a trio a couple of weeks ago.
I heard the trio was gorgeous.
Yeah, and it worked really.
It was fun on.
But it is funny because, on top of all the singing, I'm actually learning new skills, which is great in terms of video editing and stuff, because, we all recorded separately, and then I put the three of us together. But of course, we don't necessarily all start at the same time. So the mezzo started at 8 seconds. I started at 9.14. The soprano started at 9.85. So I have to edit all those down so we actually start at the same time. And the latest one we're doing is a quartet from Rigoletto. And that's going to be the next stage now, getting 4 of us together. So that would be... I actually had to take a day off on Sunday, which is hilarious when I'm actually, supposedly not busy, but I'm actually going
exhausted.
I'm actually going, I'm not going to do anything.
Yeah.
So that was nice.
But it's great that you're keeping yourself busy. And in relation to kind of, obviously, like you said, Carmen is postponed. Is that kind of the general thing you've been getting? Because I know you tend to be quite kind of booked far in advance in relation to, especially with rehearsals and with opera, the way it works in a schedule that you kind of know quite far out when the production is coming up. So is the general kind of gist from all the different companies that they are postponed, or have some just said, look, it's not going to happen, we're cancelling?
It's mostly been postponed, which is a relief. I mean, I was meant to do an opera for the Galway City of Culture in June. There was a new opera had been written that was meant to go on, of course. That was, and they're hoping to do it next year. I was doing an opera in Birmingham in September. That's being put forward to next year. But there are things like the main problem are schedules. People like that. People are busy. It just worked out that couple of weeks next year I was free on anyway, so it worked out well. But for other people, they might be busy with something else at that stage, so they can't do it. So it's quite hard.
Yeah, schedules clash for people, and new casting might have to be done.
Exactly. Yeah. And the other worry is, I mean, they're talking about, as they were saying, the theatre section was the first to be affected, along with the bars and everything. Anything that had public spaces that had to be closed, and we are going to be the last to open again. It's and the worry is, I have at the moment all my gigs until September are off, but it's like, will the things be open in November, December, where my next gigs are? And I'm prepared for no. At the moment, I'm just, in my mind, I am prepared for they're not going to go ahead. And they are kind of time of year specific. Yeah. So they might have to be postponed till Christmas, 12 months, So it's very difficult.
And one of the things as well, Brendan, that's coming up, obviously from speaking to the people in the theatre sector and things like that there's quite a likelihood, we don't know, but there's quite a likelihood that if and when those kind of larger venues open, that there's potentially going to be a restriction on the numbers of tickets that can be sold.
Absolutely, yeah.
Say if it's a 1,000 seater, you have to have 2 seats between each person, or something like that.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And
for that, then that ends up becoming, that sounds fine to people on the street, but generally speaking, the income required or the income got from the ticket sales is quite necessary in order to make these productions happen, or at least to keep the doors open. Because and as well, Brendan, theatre is exceptionally expensive, and so is opera, because you've got multiple cast members, ensemble, the whole shebang. And it's just a very expensive art form, which means that you need to be kind of having largish venues with pretty much all the seats filled with bums, as they say. And
exactly,
that's going to be quite an interesting challenge for the sector, for opera and theatre and those kind of venues, because it'll be a question of, well, can things go ahead with that decrease in income? Can costs be covered?
And the funny thing is, even when you have, the Morgosh is a big theatre, even if you have that sold out, that actually doesn't even cover the cost of the night on stage.
Wow.
Because, and that's why, you have, I don't know the figures, I'm not involved in that, but I remember with the old Opera Ireland hearing what it cost a night to run on an opera. And
all productions are complex, but operas are particularly complex, aren't they? Just even in terms of sets and people, they're people heavy. So many involved in putting something like that together.
Even exactly like Carmen was. I mean, you have like the RT concert orchestra, so there's about 60 odd in that to be paid. Then you had 40 in the chorus. You had 10 leads. You had the stage manager, all the backstage crew, the lighting people, the costume people. It's a huge operation, and obviously each person has to be paid. And and that's the thing. It's people kind of think in theatre, oh god, the singers or the actors, but it's all those people are out of work as well.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
It's and they're we can't do our jobs without them.
Yeah.
And this is to get onto a slightly different thing, but with this, the Arts Council announcement recently about their fund to help the arts sector left all those people out.
Yeah.
There was like, oh yeah, you can apply for a fund to do a Facebook Live recital or a play or whatever, and then people were like, well, I'm a stage manager, I can't do that, or I'm a director, or I'm a choreographer. It's a huge sector, and there's so many jobs that have been lost because of it, and it's usually difficult. Yeah,
and I think that's a really good point to highlight as well, Brendan, because I think that's one of the things that the people, all of us in the sector, have kind of, why we're slightly disappointed. I'm being nice, but in maybe the response of the Arts Council so far. They may pull their socks up. I'm always going to remain optimistic and hopeful, but there have been chunks of people kind of forgotten about, because, like you said, there sometimes can be, and I don't know if this comes from a department or kind of led thing, or if it's the Arts Council itself. I hope it's the department, and that the Arts Council would know better. But that they kind of forget about the, another saying, it takes a village to raise a child, or whatever it is. Like, it takes it could take 150 people to make an opera happen. It could take 100 people to make a theatre production happen. Like, there's so many people involved in making these things happen that it's not just what you see when you get there. There's so much going on behind the scenes. And I totally agree. And I think a lot of people, like you said, the stage managers and the costume people, they weren't given an opportunity to try and apply for anything, or there wasn't anything, maybe kind of a branch handed out to them to give them a bit of a help. And look, we don't know what's going to happen. What we do know is that this is going to go on for quite a chunk of time yet for us.
Oh, really will.
And has there been any talk from, say, within Irish Opera or anything like that about kind of anything that they're hearing from the Arts Council, or have you been hearing anything as professionals within the sector, Brendan?
Nothing, not a bit. And that's the thing. I have to say, not to get political or anything, but I mean, in general, the not everything, but in general, the response in this country has been very good to what's going on. And, the payment, the COVID emergency payment, compared to other countries, that has been done very well. It's just, as an artist, it's been really bad. Yeah. It's just, and the thing is, look, I understand, they have to come up with something very quickly and all that, but there has to be some system of support. And look, at the end of the day, call a spade a spade. The arts in this country are not given the due, kind of the respect that they're due compared to other countries. I mean, Germany came out with a 50 billion helpline for their art sector.
Yeah, it was massive, wasn't it? Yeah.
And we get 1 million.
Yeah.
And someone said, what was the bailout of the FAI recently?
Yeah.
And it's just not, they'll come out and they'll quote poets. We had the Irish soprano Celine Byrne was singing at the Easter Memorial. She'll be used. They'll use our composers. They use our artists. But that's as far as they'll go.
Yeah, and I think that's the kind of thing I think that's sticking in the craw, as they would say, of a lot of people within the sector. That, again, when we thought that maybe they were going to step up, that as yet they haven't. There is still time for them to do something about it, but as yet we are still awaiting something a little bit more, I suppose, respectful for the profession that we all work in.
Yeah, and it's not looking for special treatment at all. And look, to give you an example of the kind of the general attitude to the arts in this country, I was on the Journal and they were doing an article about basically reaction to the Arts Council and Joseph Madigan's plan. And one of the first, I should know by now, never go to the comment section. Never go to the comment section. But I still haven't learned. And I knew what I was going to see, and it still annoyed me. But anyway, so I looked down, and the first thing was, a bunch of college dropouts expect you money for nothing. And I was like,
oh no, please.
And that person, after they've come off from the Journal, would probably put on Spotify or put on Netflix or put on the radio. And these are all self-employed artists. And 99% of people in the arts are self-employed. Yeah. And, we do it. We don't do it for the money, God help us. We do it for the love. And, and that's the thing, you're seeing a lot of memes on Twitter, whatever, talking about how don't forget that at a time of national and international crisis, you turned to music, you turned to books, you turned to, TV and all these amazing companies that are putting out their work for free online, like the Metropolitan Opera in New York is putting an opera on their website for free every single night. The National Theatre, like I literally just before I came on here, I saw on Facebook that they're putting on the Benedict Cumberbatch, Johnny Lee Miller Frankenstein from a few years ago. The Globe Theatre are putting out Romeo and Juliet, Macbeth, all these things.
Wow. Yeah.
And people are going to consume them. And, those people have trained for years. They have made so many sacrifices, and again, it's not asking for special treatment. It's just asking for some treatment,
Yeah. I think that's it.
And also, of course, look, not everyone is going to like it. Not everyone likes opera, not everyone likes theatre, and that's the point. I have no interest in sport. Literally, I can't stress the interest I have in sport. But I'm not going to be going on saying, what are you giving money to them for? That's just a bunch of lads kicking a ball. Who cares? No, that's because that is a huge skill that they've worked towards, and people like it.
Yeah.
I just don't. But so it's. And as they were saying, like they still have a sports bulletin in RTE news. You're like, there's nothing on. What are you talking about?
It's basically what it's telling it all the time. There's nothing on.
Nothing on. But whereas again, I know there's a bigger population and much more interest in the arts. But in Germany, they have like whole sections on culture in their newspapers. They have culture shows. They actually give money to this thing and people support it. And I think it would be lovely if there was something similar here. If there's a review for an opera, it's not the opera reviewer's fault, it's the paper. It's just a little section at the side of a thing, and I don't know. I just think if the education was there and people are exposed to it, if they like it, great. If they don't, that's okay too. All these kind of things, maybe people would give them a try. And my hope is maybe it could backfire, I don't know, with all this kind of free content online that people are going to get used to not paying for it. But my hope is that people will discover it and remember that we're doing all this, want to come out again.
To a live show. I think seeing all the stuff online really shows you how that it is a different experience to actually being in a venue and at a live event. It's just different. And by the time this is over, we'll all be just dying to get back to it.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, I think so. It's great to hear that you're kind of keeping sane, Brendan, and that you've kind of got this new job that you've created for yourself. that's not paid. And you're bringing music to the world.
I'm keeping you busier than ever by the sounds of it.
Yeah.
It certainly is. Well, the hope is, the idea would be, once this is over and concert halls and theatres open, what I would love to do with it is actually get the people, as many people that would be interested from the page, and actually do an actual concert.
Brilliant.
So do social, the songs for social distancing, the live show,
that'd be excellent. Yeah.
That's great.
And
well, on that note, you two, we've way run over our time here, so we're going to have to bring our conversation to an end.
So thank you very much for asking me, and it was lovely to talk to you both.
Great. Thanks for coming on, Brendan, and best of luck with everything going forward.
Thanks a million.
Bye.